So you're moving to Chicago, whether it be for a change in work and a relocation, maybe you're moving closer to be with family, or maybe you just want a different lifestyle. If you're moving to Chicago, I put together a list of the 28 things that you need to know before moving to Chicago. So if those are things that are up your alley, this channel is for you. Today we're diving into the 28 things that you need to know before moving to Chicago. I actually relocated to Chicago from Indiana back in 2013, and this list that I'm getting ready to give you are all the things that I wish I would have known before I moved here. So if this is your first time on the channel, as I mentioned, it's all things Chicago real estate and all things living and working in Chicago. So if this information has been valuable to you, please leave a like on this video, a comment below, and definitely hit the subscribe button so that you can make sure you tune into all future videos. Without further ado, let's dive on into today's video. All right, so first up on the list is that we are a city of neighborhoods. So this goes without saying, there are 77 different neighborhoods throughout the city of Chicago, all with their own unique flair, their own unique lifestyle, and their unique makeup of people that live there. So before you move to Chicago, definitely make sure to take the time to come and visit, tour around to some of these different neighborhoods, and ultimately understand what's the neighborhood that's going to suit your lifestyle the best. Number 2 on the list, we're talking about the higher cost of living. Now, we're not Miami, we are not LA, and we're definitely not New York. However, we do have a general higher cost of living than most other cities. So we are actually the 3rd largest metropolitan city in all of the US, but we are 18th on the list of cost to living. So with all that being said, you will have higher cost of living expenses, but it's not gonna be that crazy. I actually did a video specifically on some of these costs, and I'm gonna link the card here above. All right, number 3 on the list, just wanna talk about how to get your stuff to Chicago. When I moved here, I was fresh out of college, a new graduate, so I didn't have a lot of personal belongings. So at the time, I did actually have a U-Haul truck. My parents helped me move in and kind of took some of the bits and pieces of furniture that I had from various different apartments that I had in college. But if you're moving here and maybe you're buying a place here in Chicago, again, we are a real estate team and we can help you with that. So if you have any questions about buying a home in Chicago, reach out in the links below. We can set up a real estate strategy call and get you set up for success. All that being said, most people, what I find is when they move places, a lot of times they'll get rid of their old furniture, oftentimes going into a larger space, and they'll end up just ordering stuff from the store and having it individually delivered. There are a variety of different moving services. You just want to be careful because it can be a little challenging parking a big moving truck outside of the building on the streets of Chicago. The last thing I know, some people are moving from across the country, and that's where it can get expensive, obviously. If you're shipping a car and you're shipping a bunch of other large items across the nation, I mean, that might be a situation where you leave those back at home or you sell them and you buy all new furniture when you get here. Number 4 on the list, it gets cold here in Chicago. I know you know this, but we have to address this before you move. So definitely make sure you get a nice parka before you come to the city. There's a lot of things you can do to prepare yourself, but just remember that from about November 15th through, let's call it early April or end of April, early May, you're typically going to have some pretty cold weather. Right around end of January, start of February, right at like the Super Bowl time frame, you're typically always going to have the coldest weather of the year. We could have a week of about -30 below. However, all that being said, that is short-lived, but you do got to prepare for the winter months when you're living here in Chicago. Last thing I'll say on that note is that the summers make the Chicago winters oh so worth it. By far, hands down, best city in the world when it comes to summertime Chicago. Number 5, we're gonna jump into the grid system. So something about Chicago is the way that it's been designed on a grid system. And basically runs all the streets north and south, east and west, and it starts from State and Madison. So the further you get away from State and Madison, you're typically going up to a larger number as it relates to the address. So just remember 00 is at State and Madison, and that can kind of help you keep your bearings as you're traveling around the city. So number 6 is that the lake is to the east. Lake Michigan sits on the east side of the city. So just in any relation to that, if you're looking at the lake, know that you're facing east. And one thing I do, one strain of real estate I want to add into this is that a lot of times buyers of mine and even sellers, they'll talk about having their east facing views or their lake views. And I will encourage you, I guess is the best word, to think about other views as well. And the reason for that being is because as soon as it becomes dark, the east view is a black hole. So it's kind of cool when you're in the city to see all the city lights at nighttime. So I actually prefer to have an east and a southeast/west view, because then you get the sunsets on the east, you get the city view from the south, and then you also get the sunsets on the west. So that is my favorite view, southeast shared with the west. you can get that view. That's prime time here in the city of Chicago. And number 7, this is a big one. Owning a car in Chicago. Should you do it or should you not? Should you take public transportation or should you use a car? I personally own a car as I drive clients around for my job. And I do want to say that it is expensive and I could not live without it. So a lot of people that I know, they use public transportation, and we'll dive into kind of that system and how that all works and how convenient that is at a later date. But if you own a car, I just want to quickly run through some expenses and some things to think about when it pertains to having your car in Chicago. So for me, I'm just going to take this standard example. My car, let's just say, and my car is paid off, thankfully, but let's just say you had a monthly car payment of $250 a month. Let's just start adding this up. So $250 in the city of Chicago, gas is going to run you right now, as of today, it's about $4 a gallon, which is kind of crazy, but it's about $4. Anytime you fill up a 16 or 17 gallon tank, it's going to cost you about 50 to 60 bucks. So let's just say you do that once a week. So now you're looking at a monthly cost for gas of about $200 a month. So now we're sitting at $450 for just your payment, just your gas. Let's add in another $100 for your car insurance. We're at $550. I pay $200 a month for parking. You're at $750. And then I also have a parking pass that runs me about $120 a year for basically my city sticker on my car. And then there's various other parking expenses. So when I go and park on the street outside of the grocery store, or maybe not the grocery store, but when I go and park on the street outside in between appointments, I'm basically paying anywhere between 50 cents to $2 to $4 an hour to pay to park on the street. So all that being considered, just for a standard vehicle at a $250 payment, you're looking at upwards of $750 to $1,000 a month just to have a car in Chicago. That doesn't include parking tickets and various other things. The city has mastered the art of getting you with parking tickets, red light tickets, speeding tickets, all the different enforcement. You're gonna have bills showing up in your mailbox, so just prepare for that as well. And on the flip side is if you ride the CTA or if you're taking public transportation, again, I have not really experienced this too much, but from everybody that I know that uses this on a daily basis says that it's super convenient. The great thing is you can take either the train or the bus. You can pretty much get virtually anywhere in Chicago via the train system, and it's reliable. It runs the same time pretty much every day. And if you can kind of figure out where you commute and travel to in the city, you can make transportation a breeze through the CTA, or the L is actually what we call it here in Chicago. All right, number 9, Chicago is a major travel hub. So we actually have 2 airports here. We have O'Hare and we have Midway International Airport. And both airports are actually really easy to get to, both by car and by public transportation. So you have train lines that run to both Midway and O'Hare. O'Hare, from a driving standpoint, without traffic, let's say you're going at 4 a.m. or whatever the case may be, it's gonna take you about 30 minutes to get to O'Hare and about 20 minutes to get to Midway from downtown in the city center. Obviously, when you add in a layer of traffic in different times of the day, it can certainly be unpredictable. But overall, it's a major travel hub, and oftentimes you can find great flights both in and out of Chicago. So without a doubt, the fact that it's a major travel hub is definitely a huge plus for Chicago. So number 10 is that we have a very diverse job market, and that I consider Chicago, and I think most people would, a working population. We kind of have underdog mentality, that Midwest underdog mentality. So I find that people often come to Chicago. A lot of times they're relocating because of work versus other reasons to move and live in Chicago. So really, any profession that you have, you can find some great employers in the city of Chicago that can help you in finding a great job here. Number 11 often goes hand in hand with where somebody works is where somebody lives. So talking about housing, which is our bread and butter, I just want to make a quick note here for number 11 that the average sale price in Chicago is $400,000 and your average price per square foot is $352 a foot. If you have any further questions, I would love to go more in detail about your specific situation and ultimately your real estate goals, and see if our team can help you accomplish those. Reach out down below at the Real Estate Strategy Call. Let's hop on a Zoom and we can discuss all the different questions you have, and we can put together a bulletproof strategy to move forward with so that you can accomplish your goals. All right, number 12, we're working our way all the way through this list, and this is the fact that Chicago has a thriving art scene. So all over the city, you have a lot of different opportunities to go and indulge in the art scene, whether it be an art festival, museum of science and industry. There's a lot of different things out there for you to really scratch your art niche, and I think that this city ultimately has a piece of art in their heart because you can kind of feel the creativeness and just the energy around the art scene here in Chicago. All right, number 13, and we are talking about the friendly atmosphere. I'm from Midwest, so I have that kind of Midwestern boy mentality. However, I noticed that Chicagoans also embody that as well. So whether it be shaking somebody's hand, saying hello, asking how somebody's day is, I tend to find that Chicagoans are very friendly. I've been to some other large cities around the country, and I cannot say the same thing. So the fact that Chicago people are friendly is definitely a plus. All right, number 14, millions of tourists. Obviously, being the third largest metropolitan city in the country and having so many different sightseeing and different tourist attractions, there are millions of people every single year that come to Chicago. So number 15 is the diversity of culture. So what I find is that Chicago is a massive melting pot. Literally all walks of life have found their home here in Chicago, which makes this a super cool part about being in Chicago. They come and get a taste of the Windy City. So whether they're coming for Navy Pier, potentially for the Air and Water Show, maybe Lollapalooza, or they're coming to do some world-class dining, Chicago is always going to have a tourist scene. So when you're living in Chicago, you got to get used to having people that might not be natives being around the city, walking around. Going back to the 77 neighborhoods, all of those different neighborhoods technically embody a different culture and a different vibe. So you'll be able to find your place at home. It just might take you a little bit of exploring in order to find that place that you want to lay down your roots. Slightly different note, number 17, is that there are a lot of niche communities. And what I mean by niche communities is whether you're interested in triathlon or swimming or cooking, or maybe you have a couple dogs and you really like dogs or animals in general. There's so many different work groups or self-organized groups of people like to get together to share a common interest. So me specifically, I am a triathlete. I joined a triathlon coaching group where we go out and swim in Lake Michigan, we run on the lakefront, we bike in various locations, both in the city and out in the suburbs. So if you have certain interests or passions, there's often a lot of different people that also have those same interests and passions. And you're definitely able to do a quick Google search to find some different meetups or some different hangouts to be able to meet people that share those same interests as you. All right, number 18 is the Chicago history. It is a rich history here in Chicago, known as the birthplace of the modern skyscraper, as well as having the Chicago fire and everything that came from the rejuvenation and the regeneration of the city from Daniel Burnham, the architect, back in the days of the Chicago fire that then made Chicago what it is today. So you can go to the Chicago History Museum or just walk the streets and look at old pictures in some of these old timber loft buildings that were once manufacturers of whether it be candy or some of the different type of factory that are now residential condo units. So it's so cool that sometimes not only can you experience the culture of Chicago, but oftentimes you can actually end up purchasing a home that has a lot of that rich culture and that rich history in it. Number 19, you're not gonna get bored in Chicago. There is always something to do, whether it's summertime shy and you're attending different street festivals, or maybe you're going out and kayaking on Chicago River, or maybe eating world-class dining, or just going out with friends and having a great time. Chicago always has something to do, so rest assured you will not get bored here. Number 20 is the food scene. People come from all over the world to dine at some of the restaurants here in Chicago, whether it be world-class restaurants such as Alinea, or even just getting you a classic Chicago dog at the Wiener Circle on Clark. There's many different types of food options here for you. And if you have a strong palate, or if you have a creative palate, you might find yourself visiting Chicago to check out all the different food destinations. If I had to give my favorite, just a classic steakhouse, is RPM Steak. When you're here, check it out, try it, let me know what you think. Come back here and leave a comment. Let me know how that steak was. All right, 21, which is super fun, which is the summer festivals, literally all different types of festivals, whether it be the world famous Lollapalooza, where millions of people all over the world come for the music festival every single August, or maybe it is the different and various street festivals that happen throughout the year. There are a lot of different festivals that you can partake in when you're living here in Chicago. So number 22, we often talk about how cold Chicago is, but I want to talk about how the summers can get really, really hot. And it's because you're in a concrete jungle here in Chicago. So when you have that sunshine beating down and it's shielded and blocked, and there's not a lot of exposure to the wind or the lake, it can get a little bit hot and at least feel a little bit hotter than it actually is. So just keep that in mind. Even though Chicago summers by far is the best city in the whole world during the summertime, you just gotta be prepared that you make a little bit of a sweat here in the Chicago summers. 23, the city is extremely walkable. So as I mentioned to you before, I drive everywhere. It's like my baby, it's like your cell phone. I have to have my car wherever I am, but I can walk to most places I want to go, at least being within 15 to 20 minutes of some type of public transportation to take you to your final destination. So whether it be you wanting to go to O'Hare, to the lake, or maybe you're just going from the South Loop up to Lincoln Park to go out to a neighborhood bar. There are a lot of different ways that you can walk around and access this beautiful city. 24 is the Chicago small business scene and the pride and support of it. 2020, 2021 has been a tough year. You know, during the pandemic, we had a lot of struggling small business owners. And shout out to Dave Portnoy and the Barstool Sports Fund, everything that you've done to rejuvenate and to give that glimmer of hope for small businesses that have been impacted by this global pandemic. And also our Chicago native, Marcus Lemonis, who is actually the person to recommend Dave Portnoy to put his money where his mouth is and to start the Barstool Fund. But either way, if you're a small business owner, there's a spot for you here. And if you are not a small business owner, I believe that most people here tend to like to support the different small business owners. 25, sports team. We have 5 main sports teams that a lot of people like to follow here. 2 in the same sport, which is the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. And then we also have the Chicago Blackhawks for the NHL. We have the Chicago Bulls for basketball. And then for football, we have the Chicago Bears. So choose wisely because Chicago sports are often hit or miss. However, every season of the year, we have a sports team that we can root for, which is super cool. On a slightly different note there, if you're not a professional athlete, then you have intramural sports and a lot of different intramural leagues. So whether it's sand, beach volleyball during the summer, or potentially basketball, whatever the case may be, softball, kickball, things like that, 16-inch softball, regular softball. There's a lot of different intramural leagues that you can sign up for. And Chicago Sport and Social is typically the group and the company that is regulating and basically carrying out those different leagues. All right, just 3 left. We're at number 26, which is the Chicago Suburbs. There's a lot of great suburbs in Chicago. So even if you don't necessarily want that downtown living, but you want to be in close proximity, a lot of people are often moving from the city and growing out of their spaces here and needing a little bit more of a detached space, maybe with a yard, maybe with a different school district. So a lot of times you're going to have different Chicago neighborhoods, anywhere between 25 to 30 minutes outside of the city to an hour and a half, 2 hours. And the reason that a lot of people move out there, again, because they're outgrowing their space, they just need a little bit more privacy, or they want a desired school district. There's a lot of great schools and a lot of reasons people move to Chicago, and specifically the Chicago suburbs, is because of the school system. All right, 27, 2 more to go. 27 is tourist traps. There's a lot of them and they're super cool. So whether you're visiting the Bean, you maybe do that once or twice once you actually live here, or that it's technically called the Cloud Gate, but you refer to it as the Bean. Whether you're visiting Navy Pier, you're going to a Cubs game, or the Museum of Science and Industry, or maybe even taking a look at the planetarium, the Adler Planetarium. There are so many different tourist attractions here in Chicago that you can take advantage of, which is super, super fun if you're visiting. And also if you live here every now and then, it's just good to go and get a refresher for all the cool attraction spots here in Chicago. All right, saving the best for last, Chicago Lakefront and the Chicago Riverwalk. It's something that you want to know about and you want to spend some time, whether it's in the summer, flocking to the lake to take your boat out on Lake Michigan, or you're running on the lakefront, or even just grabbing a glass of wine and enjoying yourself at the Chicago Riverwalk and the different wineries. That is the number 28 thing about moving to Chicago that you need to know. Talking about different cultures, there's a lot of different cultural enclaves throughout the city too. So wherever you're from, whatever your walk of life, you can often find people and places that match the desired lifestyle and the desired culture of where you want to live. All right, so that wraps up our list. If this has been helpful to you, leave a like, comment, and be sure to hit the subscribe button before you go, and we'll see you on the next video.